like to address some concerns. I recently got some constructive feedback on a video I published last year.
Just want to make sure I understand. You're advocating to make buildings less fire safe?
This whole video is stupid. We need those. You love fire deaths, eh? It's a fire risk, dude. You can burn in an apartment fire if you like.
So I thought I should make a follow-up video, partially to clarify that I am not in fact pro-fire, but also because some really interesting things have happened since that video.
For some context, there's one building code that makes it very difficult to design small apartment buildings. If your building is above 2 or 3 stories, it's required to have 2 staircases, which is a big reason why apartment layouts in North America are designed to be large, wide, and really only suitable for studio or one-bedroom units with windows on one side. By allowing buildings with 1 staircase instead of 2, we could build quaint walk-up apartments like these. Think of some of the most beloved urbanist neighborhoods around the world. Well, this code change is one of the key ways that we could make neighborhoods like that possible.
So I made a video about that with Urbanarium, and literally days before publishing it, the provincial government of British Columbia, where I live, announced that they would be looking into changing this very rule. And now the city of Toronto, the state of California, Virginia, Colorado, Minnesota, and many other places are looking into changing this rule as well. But this change also has many people concerned, and for one good reason: fire.
If there's a fire in an apartment building, people need to evacuate quickly, while firefighters need to get inside quickly.
If there's only 1 staircase in the building, well, both groups only have one option to exit or leave the building. And if that 1 staircase is on fire, well, we have a serious problem. Oh my God. So for this follow-up video, I want to know, is it possible to design a single staircase building that's still safe in a fire? We are never using a smoke machine again. That is way too much.
Well, the province recently hired building code experts to look into that very question. They investigated the risks around single staircase buildings and how these risks are dealt with in other countries, where single staircase buildings are legal to build.
Here are the highlights I noticed. The vast majority of fires start in someone's private unit, usually from their burner or oven. What makes that fire a much bigger problem is when it spreads beyond that one unit into the hallway and staircases. That gives the flames and smoke a path to spread throughout the whole building and trap residents inside their units. The idea behind having 2 staircases is to give residents the option to use a different staircase if one is full of smoke or on fire, which is why so many are concerned about legalizing buildings with just 1 staircase. But with all that said, a second staircase is still an imperfect solution because, let's face it, smoke and flames can still spread to that other staircase, and they often do. According to the report, what we really need to be thinking about is preventing fires from spreading in the first place, and it points to a very effective solution: sprinklers that get activated by heat and douse out flames before they can spread further.
In buildings with both smoke alarms and sprinkler systems, the percentage of fires spreading beyond the room of origin was about 2%. In contrast, for buildings without smoke alarms and sprinkler systems, the percentage of fires spreading beyond the room of origin was about 46%. On that note, the report also suggests other ways to prevent fire and smoke from spreading.
For example, requiring doors to have higher fire ratings, and another really interesting idea: pressurization.
Basically, you can have a fan in the hallway and staircases that's activated during a fire to make sure that air pressure pushes smoke away from these areas.
For me, there's an important takeaway here. Making a building safe from fires isn't about building multiple staircases so that we can let one burn while people rush to escape through the other one before it burns too. That might have been the idea in the 1940s, but today, fire safety is all about preventing a fire from spreading beyond where it started in the first place. Another safety concern is around traffic jams, the human kind. During a fire, people need to evacuate a building, but at the same time, firefighters need to enter the building with their equipment and hoses. If there's just 1 staircase, the concern is that this would slow everyone down and create hazards. To address that risk, the report points to other countries that have created rules that limit how many people rely on a single staircase.
For example, rules that enforce a maximum number of people and homes per floor, a maximum travel distance to the staircase, and limits to the height and area of the building.
To me, those rules better address the heart of the issue. Because, to be clear, traffic jams still happen in buildings with 2 or more staircases. When there's a fire, people use any staircase that's available to them, and firefighters are still climbing against the flow of people exiting the building. So the root issue here isn't just about the number of staircases available. It's a bit more nuanced than that. Traffic jams occur when there are too many people trying to use too few staircases. In fact, there are building layouts with 2 staircases that are actually more likely to create traffic jams than a single staircase building. Here's a single staircase layout that's illegal to build, and here's a 2 staircase layout that is totally legal to build in Canada today, with a maximum travel distance of 45 meters to at least one of the exits. This design has way more people relying on its staircases than the other design, but because it has the right number of staircases, one is legal and the other is not. If we're really concerned about human traffic jams, it's a bit crude to simply require 2 staircases and call it a day. I think it makes way more sense to place a reasonable limit on the number of people who rely on a staircase, and also make that staircase wider so that it's easier for firefighters to go up and everyone else to go down. Now, before I get to the last solution, I want to touch on something I initially found surprising about the report. I originally thought that one way to make sure single staircase apartments were safe in a fire was to create an alternative to the second staircase, like a fire escape, a ladder, a retractable slide, or I don't know, a giant trampoline. But while the report does explore some of these ideas, it doesn't recommend them for a number of reasons. The basic gist is that relying on something other than a staircase brings up a ton of other complications that we might not find acceptable.
For example, ladder trucks are used in other countries to rescue people from upper floors, but here in North America, you would often run into trees, power lines, and parked cars, preventing this means of escape from being possible.
And there's a whole other sidebar I can get into about why fire escapes are problematic, but I'll save you that rant because I've saved the best for last. According to the report, the most important, the most vital thing we have to do to ensure fire safety is...
Yes, it's something that we often overlook, but according to the report's authors, the biggest risk to an apartment's fire safety systems is that they can get damaged or fail without regular maintenance. Over time, fire doors might not shut tight anymore, allowing smoke to leak through. Sprinkler systems and smoke detectors can break down, and the worst case scenario is when nobody bothers to test and fix them until it's too late. According to the report, this is one of the most likely and most dangerous threats to a building's fire safety.
It turns out that keeping a building safe from fires isn't just about having the right design and technology, but the right practices and policies to make sure that a building is maintained and its fire systems are working correctly. That's way too close. Oh my God. Now, there's one overarching theme that I've noticed through all this. None of these fire safety risks are exclusive to single staircase buildings. Fire spreading into hallways, traffic jams in staircases, or poor maintenance are issues for all buildings, regardless of whether they have one staircase or several. So I actually see a bit of a silver lining here. This discussion on changing the building code seems to be opening up an important discussion on how we can improve the safety of all of our buildings in general. But even with all that said, I think critics of this change still have a valid point. All else equal, 2 staircases are safer than 1. We could require single staircase buildings to have all of these safety features, like sprinklers, fire-rated doors, and better maintenance to make them incredibly safe. But even then, a building with all those same safety features and 2 staircases would still be safer in a fire. That is true. So should we abandon this code change because of that fact? Well, I'm not so sure about that either.
There's another fire safety debate that's been going on for decades. Should we require sprinklers in single-family homes? The evidence for this is pretty overwhelming. Study after study shows that sprinklers would be a tremendous improvement to the fire safety of homes, and yet it has been an uphill battle to make this rule happen. People have been very vocal about not wanting this requirement. In fact, more than 30 states in the US today have legislation that prohibits local governments from requiring fire sprinklers for houses.
I'm not here to say that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but to me, the fact that most places don't require houses to have sprinklers today is proof that we as a society are often willing to make trade-offs in safety to pursue other priorities and values that we believe are important. Like, I guess making single-family homes a bit cheaper to build. Fire safety has always been a careful balance, one that makes informed trade-offs and manages fire risks while also accepting that you can't eliminate all risks entirely. And if we're willing to offer that nuance for our single-family houses, I hope we can do that for our small apartment buildings as well. The single staircase hate. Come on everybody, could you give them a break? The single staircase hate. They're actually quite safe if you give them sprinklers and smoke alarms and pressurization and fire-rated doors and have regulations that limit the number of people who rely on a single staircase and operations and maintenance.